You are listening to Leading the Factory Forward with your host, Lynn Friest. We share interviews with manufacturing experts and strategies for embracing the digital future, recruiting a new workforce, finding new business. Lynn is an advanced manufacturing strategist and leadership consultant who is on a mission to show manufacturing leaders how to improve their current operations while preparing for a digital future. And here's your host, Lynn Friest.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Leading the Factory Forward. This is episode number 64, and it's Your Message Matters with Jonathan Milligan. Our goal in Leading the Factory Forward is to help you create a compelling future for yourself, your teams, and your organization. I encourage you to visit my website and download the summary at the bottom of the podcast episode and use that as a tool to capture notes as you start your exploration of the concepts from this episode. Or to help you get started on your journey and to stay up to date on new episodes, please download the free worksheet, 3 Steps You Need for a More Productive Workday. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be talking with Jonathan Milligan about his new book, Your Message Matters: How to Rise Above the Noise and Get Paid for What You Know. Jonathan is an author, blogger, speaker, and online business coach. He has spent the last decade guiding and directing creative professionals on how to pursue meaningful work. I've known and learned from Jonathan for several years now, and I am delighted to have him on the show to share the lessons and insights in his new book. He will give you a simple 4-step framework to rise above the noise and build a real business. He shows you how to believe, define, craft, and market your message so that you can fulfill your unique purpose in this life. This can be your go-to guide for living your dreams and impacting the world for good. So please join me in listening to what Jonathan has to share and how it might help you move ahead in the next step in your journey. I'm both honored and excited to have Jonathan here today to talk about the new book, Your Message Matters: How to Rise Above the Noise and Get Paid for What You Know. And with that, we'll lead it right in. Jonathan, what would you like to start off with here?
I just want to say I'm excited to be here because this has been fun putting this book together. And I'm a lover of books, always wanted to have my own book in a bookstore. And the reason why I love books is because you get packaged in a book someone's, 10 or 15 or 20 years of experience just right there in an organized fashion. And that's what I hope that this book does. And even our discussion today can do as well.
Great, Jonathan. Well, right in the introduction of the book, it talked about some things that I think are interesting to my audience, which is the opportunity for new media. If you're a company of one, there's a lot more opportunities now than there used to be.
Yes, there is. There is a ton of ways we can get our message out there. And so oftentimes when we say message, what are we talking about? Maybe we should start a little bit there. A message is when you have a story, you have skills, you have experience that can be helpful to other people. Sometimes it's maybe the younger version of yourself is often a great way to look at it. What would you advise from either through your writing, teaching, speaking, or coaching to a younger version of yourself who wants to maybe accomplish the things you've accomplished or overcame the things that you overcame? And so that's why this book is, I think, really, really exciting to get out there because it really lays out that plan for people. And on top of that, I think we also have an opportunity that exists that just frankly didn't exist before, which is the internet and all the stuff that we have access to today, which is really exciting. And it's easier than ever before to share a message.
Yeah, I agree. And I think leading right into the first section of the book is you talk about what is a messenger, and again, I think for our audience here, these are things they haven't had to think about. They were in corporate world, maybe. These things were largely defined, whether they like the definition or not, it was true. But now this gives you, I think you start off right away with talking about, what are you doing and why are you doing this?
Yeah, exactly. And, I was there at one point. I started off as a high school teacher, then decided I wanted to venture out. I didn't know what that was. I wanted to find my purpose in something, tried a bunch of things. One of them was being a corporate headhunter, an executive recruiter for a couple of years and figuring out that world, but still it wasn't exactly the thing. And the thing I like to liken it to, Lynn, back when I did a lot of career coaching is we oftentimes either have polling or pushing factors. And polling factors is when, we're in our routine, we're doing our job, but there's something else that's like man, I would love to do that, whatever that thing is, right? Our dream job, our dream business, that's a pulling factor. Other times there's pushing factors, and pushing factors are oftentimes our situation changes, the company downsizes, the economy goes down, things change. And what's interesting about the time that we're living in right now is there's both pulling and pushing factors happening at the same time. And so if you find yourself in that situation where you've been a corporate employee or you've gained experience and you've been thinking in the back of your mind, I wonder if I could create a business out of this and have a little bit more freedom to be my own boss. That's what this book is all about, to help someone like that discover what's the pathway from step one to get there.
Mm-hmm. Again, I just love the whole book is, of course, a framework of how to go about that. And I think when I've talked to people similar to myself who have left the corporate world, they have a desire, but they don't know how. And that could leave you stuck. So I know a lot of colleagues of, well, I'm going to be a consultant, but that's as far as it can ever go for them because they haven't had that framework to really push forward on that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what happens is probably how I felt in the beginning. So I wanted to leave that downtown high-rise position that I had in a corporate setting in a cubicle to wanting to coach people and do it from home or do it from anywhere. And I started by putting up a website. And I was like, okay, well, it's not true that if you put up a website, they just come. And then there's only so much self-promotion you can do before you're just tired of it, right? No one wants to promote themselves. At least most people don't like the idea of promoting themselves. So then you're kind of left with, what do I do? You know, do I do the networking thing? Maybe I don't feel good at it. And then I got to go to meetups. And how do I actually grow this thing and get noticed when I'm just starting out from scratch? And I think that's where a lot of people find themselves. Maybe that's what keeps them, Lynn, from getting started. Or after they've started, they realize, wait a minute, I have to do more than just my craft. I have to actually learn this marketing thing. And for a lot of people, maybe they don't like marketing, or they just feel like it's this thing I don't understand, or it's complicated, or I don't want to come across as someone who's a sleazy salesman who's got ulterior motives. So how do I do this stuff when I have this passion or I have the skill, yet this thing called marketing is standing in my way between me working with my dream clients and customers?
Sure, absolutely. You know, another thing about this whole process is these people, myself included, have been successful. This is something new, and it's going to be hard work and it's going to be uncomfortable. And I really liked, again, in your first section there, how you talked about the Messenger Manifesto. So again, and I think it was Michael Hyatt's wife that said, everybody stumbles on the why if you can't keep the why in mind. And so I'd love it if you could share the Messenger Manifesto and kind of how you got there.
Yeah. So the Messenger Manifesto, I believe, is like in chapter 4 of the book. And the reason why I wanted to include this, I originally wrote this just for myself. It's actually chapter 5. And this was in a particular time where I'm doing the work, right? And sometimes you're doing the work, you're doing the hard work, you're not always seeing results. And I liken it in the book a lot of times to like being a farmer, right? You wake up every day and you plant your seed, you water, you continue to nurture this ground, but you have to like wait until the harvest. That's a long time away, especially when you're in the spring, and then the summer comes and it gets really hot and things get hard and difficult. And yet you wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and you keep working. And that's how this feels. And so what I wanted to do, I originally just wrote it for myself, but I wanted to write a short little manifesto. You could also call it a prayer that is helping me set up my day for success, for helping me step into this thing that I feel called to, or this thing that I want to do, building a business, serving other people. And it goes like this. As I begin my day, I will choose to work from a place of mission and not fear, service and not greed, humility and not pride. I choose today to offer hope to the discouraged, purpose to the doubting, and direction to the confused. May this be my vision as I work today to build a business. And so even though there's like no mention of profit and making money, and obviously that's an element, maybe we'll talk a little bit about that today, you have to start at the right place, which is solving problems for people and serving people. You got to get those things right, because it's the old adage, people got to know, like, and trust you. And you got to show up for them each day. And that manifesto helped me in times where I lacked motivation or times were difficult. Or when I started my business, I was also still had my day job. So I was working on it in the side hustle, in the margins. And that prayer, that manifesto just gave me the reminder of my why. And I think that's so important. Like you mentioned, Gail Hyatt says, when we lose our why, we lose our way. Or in the reverse, lose your way when you lose your why. And that's really, really important that you have that why front and center to help you, especially in the beginning when you're kind of starting off in obscurity and no one's really paying much attention to you. So that's so very important.
Great. Well, then in part 2 of the book, it's define your message. And again, I really like that because as a person from the corporate world, maybe I was defined as a manufacturing manager or a logistics, I was defined by a job title. But that isn't something you can really, sell, as it were, in most cases. So I really like the steps you go through there in how do you define your gift and those kinds of elements. So I wonder if you could share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And so here's the thing that was kind of the aha moment for me in my journey, because I was on a journey to find my thing. I was trying it all. And what I discovered was my purpose wasn't in a thing. It wasn't in a job title. It wasn't in a company. That my purpose was actually right underneath me all along. It was what's unique about me. And in a world full of change, and I don't think there's anybody that doubts that right now, we live in a world of change. One thing that you can hold on to is what's changeless about you. And that's how you are naturally wired, your God-given gifts, your unique abilities. And that's separate than a job title. And for a lot of people, we don't know what that is. We've educated ourselves to a position. We work and we do this job. We tick the boxes. We get the performance reviews. But then we often still wonder, what is my unique gift? What do I have that's changeless about me? And in the book, I talk about how I came across an old out-of-print book called Acres of Diamonds. It was written back in 1915, and it was a game changer for me. Without going into all the details here, essentially what it did was it caused me to stop doing an outward journey of finding that perfect job or title, and I started getting more curious about what my gifts were. And I started with what's changeless about me. And the more that I asked people, and I got people who knew me best, like I talk about in the book, to help me uncover what that was, I found out that mine was being a resourceful teacher. And that if I learn to live and lean into that, that's how I can most benefit people in a business. And so that's part of defining your message, is a part that nobody, I would say, most people don't go down. Is, we go towards, let's get the degree, let's get the safe and secure job, let's, provide for a family, which are all great things. But you can unlock a whole nother level of opportunity when you actually find out what's unique about you, your unique gift. Because here's the thing, Lynn, this is something I've discovered and it's been true about me. You will gravitate towards that unique gift. It doesn't matter what your title is. You're going to approach that job using your uniqueness, your unique ability, because we just naturally gravitate toward it. We just don't realize we do it.
Mm-hmm. And again, that whole part that you go through, who do you want to help? Finding your ideal customer, those kinds of things. What problem will you solve? And I think of that sometimes as, in my personal circumstances, the thing I can add unique value in it is I've seen a lot of exceptions. We all know how things go when they go smoothly, but people like myself, through our experience, have seen a lot of exceptions, and we can add value to, like you say, either our younger self or people who are in that circumstance.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that, just to kind of be clear on what that message is, it comes down to purpose, people, and passion. Purpose is what we just talked about. People is, who do you want to help? And you have to get specific. And then the passion, I approach it a little bit differently in the book, because passion is not so much about, well, I got to go find my one only passion in life. Because I think and I believe that your passions will change, but your purpose remains. And that will always be true about you. But the way that I talk about it in the book is that a passion is really the problem that you're passionate about solving for the next 2 to 5 years. Let's focus on helping people overcome that thing and build recognition and a brand and a name around doing so. And when you put those 3 things together, your purpose, the people you want to serve, and the passion, which is the problem you're trying to solve, you will have ignited a powerful message that then goes to the next part of the book, which is about actually marketing it.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that because this is where it gets more concrete for some of us. If it's felt a little fuzzy so far, you really get into, 4 elements of how do you actually get out there and connect with customers, sell your services, those kinds of things.
Yes. And so I come from the angle of the online world because that's where I started my business in 2009. And that's what I've been able to do full time since 2011. And so that's where I kind of focus in on this. Little did I know that pretty much the whole world was going to be moving online and figuring out online, so much so that, today more people I think they're getting more anti being on a Zoom meeting. But at the same time, what we've realized is as a business, whether you want to launch your own business or a business period, has to start paying attention to the online. And so that's kind of the angle I come from with this book. But what I talk about are what I call the 4 Keystone habits. It's create, capture, compile, and connect. Create is where you as a messenger, whether you want to write, teach, speak, or coach, you are providing free content. Perfect examples right now, we're doing this podcast. That's an example of free content. That's creating something of value for free in order to attract your ideal audience. That's you need to have a plan for that. Some people skip over this. I think it's important. Capture. How do you actually get them on an email list? You need to have leads to survive as a business. Any business needs leads. And so even though you're creating content, it's not just for the sake of creating free content, but it's because it gives you an opportunity to capture that audience into a lead. So that the third one is compile. And that's where you, as a guide, as a subject matter expert, you package your knowledge and experience into products and services. In the book, we talk about 12 different ways that you can do that. And then finally, connect. Connect is the traffic part. How do we actually get people to listen to our podcast, pay attention to our blog post, watch our live streams, watch our YouTube channel? How do we get them to pay attention to us online? And we cover that in a whole chapter by itself. And so the bottom line is, yes, this feels like a big, arduous thing, marketing. But the truth is, it comes down to you choosing. And what I encourage people to do in the book is choose just one. So I teach you a couple of different ways to do it. And I encourage you to choose one method when it comes to create, capture, compile, and connect, and make those your focus for the next 90 days. And that's how you begin to gain traction.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, there's a wealth of information there, and I'll certainly encourage all of our listeners to dive into that. Now, your final section is for me anyways, circles back to your manifesto, but I really, again, like that because it helps us really capture our why. So maybe you could share a few thoughts on that.
Yeah. So part 4 in the book is about living your message. And I think this is important. It goes back to a little bit about the Messenger Manifesto that we talked about, but I wanted to dive a little bit more deeper into it because I think this is how you gain a following for a lifetime. Is when you're committed to helping people in 3 unique ways. So this is actually, I believe, chapters 16, 17, and 18 in the book. But I talk about, it starts by encouraging hearts and moving people from discouragement to hope. Now, what often happens is we say, well, for example, I teach a lot about online marketing. Well, Jonathan, why are you talking about discouragement, hope in the midst of teaching people how to grow audiences or how to do Facebook ads or how to build an email list? What does that have to do with hope? Here's the reality. Regardless of what your niche is, you are helping people. And people come with discouragement. They come with their own doubts. And I first realized this, Lynn, on one of the first products that I launched online. I said, I'm going to open up free chat on the last day. And I'm actually myself going to do live chat with anybody who is interested in buying my online course about marketing. So I'd never done it before. I didn't know how it was going to be. I was chatting, Lynn, 5 or 6 people at once. I had all these windows open. I'm chatting with everybody. It was an education for me that day because here's what I came to realize. And this is so important. People doubt themselves more than they doubt your products and services. That's what I came away with. It wasn't, Jonathan, I don't think your marketing techniques work. It was, Jonathan, I don't know if I could do this. I don't think I'm smart enough. I have a hesitation toward technology. I don't know that I can do this. And so this is why it's so important. We can't skip over this. And this is what caused me to even, in some ways, from the original outline I had of the book, I changed it up because I wanted to put that whole part 1 on believing your message first. Believe that you actually have a message before we get into the marketing tactics. And so what I talk about in this Live Your Message is the importance of encouraging hearts, moving people from discouragement to hope, and how you can do that with your audience. Number 2, educating heads, and that is about moving people from doubt to confidence. So how do we actually give them the practical knowledge that they need to be successful? But then it's more than just about knowledge. It's so much bigger than that. We actually have to help our audience take action. We may not see ourselves in that light as writers, speakers, teachers, coaches, influencers, but it's an important part. Like, we have to help people actually take action. And that last one's about empowering hands, moving people from delay to action. And so I wanted to end the book there because I think it's just a great reminder of, you know what? Yes, we make money selling widgets. We make money selling books, courses, all these things. But if we're going to make a difference in the lives of others, we've got to reach them in their head, their heart, and their hands. And when we do, we will have a customer for a lifetime. We'll have them follow us for a lifetime because they believe we have their best interests in mind and that we're going to help them not only transform their bank account, but transform themselves, which is so very important.
Great, Jonathan. Thank you so much today. And now I believe you have a special offer that we're going to be able to offer listeners to this podcast. I wondered if you could explain it a little bit.
Yeah. So I decided to I reached out to my publisher and said, hey, I would like to buy like a whole pallet of my own book because I really want to get it out there to people. And so I did that. I purchased a pallet, had it shipped to a warehouse in Arkansas. And what I have put together that I would like to offer to your listeners is a free copy of the book. So I bought the book. All I ask is that you pay for shipping. This is only going to be available for those in the US, but basically we have set up you with a special link that goes along with this podcast. And maybe, Lynn, you know that link, or maybe it's going to be in the show notes. But this is something that we're offering that's not necessarily out there to everybody. Obviously, a lot of people might buy it in the bookstore. You know, it's $16.99 in the bookstore, or the hardback's $30. And you certainly can go buy it in the bookstore, Amazon, and all those places. But for this special offer, you can actually get the book delivered to you for just $7.95, which covers the shipping and handling cost that we've set up.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. And yes, the link will be in the show notes for the podcast. And again, I want to thank you very deeply for sharing this with us and writing the book. This is, I think, again, extremely helpful to myself and people who are also listening here today. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Lynn. Appreciate it.
Again, my thanks to Jonathan for sharing the insights from his book with us. As a quick recap, we talked about his journey and how that brought him to write the book, his summary of the key points in the books, some ideas on how to continue on your journey, and a special offer to get a free copy of the book and just pay for the shipping. And attached in the notes will be the affiliate link for the book. Now, what's up next? We're going to continue a mix of solo episodes and interviews with experts, some in manufacturing, but also some in the areas that can help you build your business. And in the last episode of the month, or possibly in an earlier episode, I'll be sharing my thoughts and ideas on becoming a silver entrepreneur and how silver talent or expert talent might be able to help your business. In our next episode, we'll be talking with Jamie Smansky about her thoughts on what is new in the digital world. And as always, I encourage you to visit my website and download the summary at the bottom of the podcast episode as you start your consideration of the ideas in this episode. And to help you get started on your journey and to stay up to date on new episodes, please download the free worksheet, 3 Steps You Need for a More Productive Workday. Thanks for listening.